Preseason storylines begin with new coordinators on both sides. Walt leads the offense. Chad Wilt is the new DC, though Allen will make the defensive play calls. There is serious competition at QB. Jack Tuttle returns, being challenged by Missouri transfer, former SEC co-freshman of the year Connor Bazelak, and redshirt sophomore Dexter Williams. Indiana addressed needs in the transfer portal by focusing on veterans. Despite losing 27 players and signing just 13, IU actually gained 5,000 snaps of game experience. Those transfers will mix with the best recruiting class of the Tom Allen era, a class made of 22 first-year players, ranking as the 5th best recruiting haul in the entire Big Ten. The key question to be answered on defense: can one of the new guys be this year's version of do-it-all defensive leader Micah McFadden, or will a returning Hoosier fill those shoes? Won't take long to see if this IU team can avoid the kind of Big Ten beginning which foreshadowed a disappointing 2021. Hoosiers once again open in league play September 2nd against Illinois. The last 2 years truly the best of times and the worst of times for IU. After an historic 2020, 2021 was equally surprising in a disappointing fashion as the Hoosiers went winless in Big Ten play. The man in charge of getting the train back on the tracks, Tom Allen, standing by with Dave Revson.
Coach, really great energy out there today. We got a chance to see you go through a full-fledged scrimmage. What do you look to get out of the first scrimmage of camp?
Well, we call it preseason game number 1 for us in our progression. So it's a big evaluation for us where we're trying to go through and really evaluate where we're at from a technical perspective, executing our calls, and kind of where the depth chart's going to look. And so we'll go through, we'll grade it just like a normal game and really establish the rest of our practices based on the depth chart from there, as well as what we need to focus on. And got a lot of situations worked on as well. So those are the 3 main focuses.
I understand you haven't graded it yet, so it might be an unfair question, but just give me a sense of kind of what you took away from watching this team scrimmage for the first time.
Well, when you do it for the first time and had a full officiating crew for the first time, you're trying to get the mechanical part of it down in terms of just operations on offense, operations on special teams, substitutions. There were some challenges with that as far as what you would expect, but as far as executing of offense and defense, there's a lot of positives. Both sides made plays. Both sides obviously going against each other. So when one side makes a play, you got to figure out what happened on the other side. Right. But at the same time, they were competing. It was back and forth. Came down to the final 4th and 1 on the goal line to decide the winner. And I just thought our kids competed. I thought they played hard. Got a lot of young kids in there as well. Got a lot of new faces. And I thought that it was just a good, solid day. I think we'll get better.
One of the things we talked about as we visited with you before the scrimmage today was the number of new faces that you have, not just as players, and you're saying upwards of 40 new players on this roster, but also a lot of new assistant coaches as well. What's the process of integrating such a large group of new faces?
Well, it's I would say it's a challenging process for sure, but it obviously over time keeps coming together closer and closer. So I feel like we've been doing this since the springtime, but this was our first game day mechanics. So we had guys in the press box that we're talking through, working through even the communication for both sides of football. That takes some time. That's why we call them preseason games 1, 2, and 3. And so before we have our official kick. So to me, I just think it's chemistry, working together. It's the ability to trust each other. Everybody's got assignments during what you're seeing during the game, how you can make adjustments. You don't get that quite piece in a scrimmage because you're always on the field coaching your guys, but at the same time, the data collection that we go through. And I just think more than anything, whether you bring new players in, bring new coaches in, when you bring in individuals that fit with you and fit your system, fit your culture, I think that transition gets sped up.
You have new coordinators on both sides of the ball. What are you hoping a Walt Bell offense looks like at its best?
Well, bottom line is we got to score points, and I think the way the game is played right now, that's just inevitable that you have to be able to do that. We got to be able to protect the football too. I think that the bottom line is that taking the ball away on defense is a big way to be able to steal possessions, and be great in that red zone. Scoring those touchdowns in the red zone is really an emphasis for us. So it comes down to third downs, scoring points, and being able to finish out drives. And so I think Coach Bell has a tremendous offensive mind. I've gone against him as a coordinator, and I like what he's doing.
For you, it's interesting because your background obviously is on the defensive side. Give us a sense with Chad Wilt of what your role is going to be in terms of calling plays, defensive X's and O's. Like, how do you balance that between being the head coach and having the role you're going to have on defense?
Yeah, I think, first of all, he's done a tremendous job, and such a sharp, organized, disciplined guy that brings the passion that I'm looking for. So he can run the meetings with our players. I sit on all those meetings, both the staff and the players, but schematically very, very involved, and so he may script certain things in regards to practice, but I'm the one calling the plays, one going through and saying, I want to do this and different things. And so, but just having a great group of guys that work well together, our new GAs, we got both, sets of new GAs as well because of just those guys getting opportunities, which is awesome. So I just feel like that Chad for me is just going to be my right-hand guy defensively. And if I have to walk out of a meeting and go handle something, I feel confident to be able to handle business.
What's the challenge of that as a defensive coach? I think in this day and age, college football, we see a lot of head coaches who are calling offensive plays during the course of the game. It's a little bit rarer for a defensive coach. What's the balancing act there? Yeah,
it is unique for sure. I think the biggest thing is the game day management piece, and then the timeouts, the going forward on fourth downs and making those decisions that you have during the game when the defense is over there making adjustments. And that's why having somebody you can trust to do all that is going to be critical. And so for me, that's, I think, is the biggest thing you have to work through. And I know for me, having done it in the past, then having the last 3 years where I didn't call it, that to me is going to be the focus. But I will say this, I feel like we've grown in those areas. And then having Rod Carey here for me is a huge addition to our staff as an analyst for us. He's going to be in the press box. And I just feel like his experience as a head coach as well. So I just feel like we've added the pieces to help me be able to do my best as being a great head coach as well as a great play caller on defense.
I want to talk about the quarterback spot because you can't leave a camp without talking about it, particularly given what an interesting situation you have. You have a very talented freshman in there. You have a veteran in Connor Bazelak who transferred in from Missouri. Jack Tuttle as well, a player that people are very familiar with here at IU, has played in big situations for you. Where do you see that position right now? Well,
as you saw today, all three made plays, which is what you want, so it's obviously going to have to pick one of them, and we'll do that when the time comes. But I see all three guys that have a really, really high-level understanding of what we're doing and executed the ball well, protected the ball well. We had one interception there at the end, but I feel like that it's going to be a tight race. You mentioned all three guys, even Dexter, he's had a tremendous offseason. He has a tremendous skill set, great release, good presence in the pocket, has really good athleticism, and then you got the two older guys that are battling. So, as we learned last year, though, we're going to need all three of them, and get Lord willing, it won't be like last year in that regard, but you do have to have depth. You have to have a lot of guys that can play, and I feel like all three of those guys have strengths. They all things that they're trying to work through. We just keep getting better.
I'm going to leave you with this. You open with Illinois. It is their second game. They will have played Wyoming before they play you. What are the advantages and disadvantages, and in what way can you try to use it to your advantage?
Well, the obvious disadvantage is they have a chance to play, and everybody talks about improvement from game one to game two, and so I think that's a distinct thing in their regard. But also, we will have a chance to sit and watch them play, and see what they're going to look like, and they won't have a chance to do that for us, So they'll have some unknowns for us, and that's probably the biggest thing that we have going for us in that regard. But it's like anything else. You got to show up and play well. It's our first game. It's our first Big Ten game for both teams, and it's going to be a big one.
Head coach of the Hoosiers, Tom Allen. Always a pleasure. Thanks a lot, Coach.
Thank you so much, Elio.
In they come and out they go. Plenty of roster turnover this year for IU, and these notable newcomers are worth watching. Allen spoke glowingly about the new skilled players on offense, as well as J.H. Tevis and Miles Jackson, both of whom will be immediate impact guys on defense. Joshua Perry and Howard Griffith have more from Bloomington.
Just got off the practice field here at Indiana, had the chance to watch a little scrimmage. Yeah. Turn up the physicality, turn up the competition. Our eyes were on the quarterback position, just like a lot of people who are going to be viewing this. What were your biggest takeaways from that group?
Well, I think one of the things that you saw immediately is all three quarterbacks really made plays today, really had their moments. Now, I think they're still growing, still have to, understand the offense, which I think they have a great handle on. But scrimmages are a great chance for the team and also the coaches to get a feel for what these guys are going to be like under center, and I think it's going to go a long way in who ultimately wins the starting job.
And I think the advantage that Indiana has right now in that quarterback competition is they've got two guys who are really experienced competing for that starting job, and one guy who's a really good athlete. But as you look at Bazelak and Tuttle, both of those guys have played a lot of football. We've seen Tuttle play in this conference. We saw Bazelak play in the SEC where he had some success. So I think just from that standpoint, you feel confident in the fact that whoever wins that job is going to be somebody who's played snaps. Now, when I flip it over to the defensive side. There was a player on that defensive line, a young guy in McCullough, who really caught our eye. What are you seeing out of him that separates him from really a lot of the rushers that we've seen in the Big Ten so far?
Well, I think what jumps out immediately is just the body type, right? He's long, really can rush the passer. He's going to spend some more time in the weight room because he's young, but I think that's going to develop. But when you talk about being an elite pass rusher, I think he has that skill set in him. So he's going to be one of those guys that they may not have thought was going to be a huge contributor on the defensive line this year, but it looks like he's going to be a big part of the packages that they run.
6'5", 230, like you said, maybe a little bit more time in the weight room, but just from an athletic skill standpoint, you can't teach that height. And he's got really good ability to bend. He's explosive off the line of scrimmage, and we know how important it is, especially in this conference, the way that the quarterbacks are starting to develop, to have a guy who can consistently apply pressure, and you know that they're going to have that. Now, Tom Allen told us a little bit earlier about the fact that they had about 40 guys come into the program this offseason. Half of them came in the winter, and the other half came for the summer, and how you have to really work on building that relationship. But we know that he is a true relationship guy around here. As you start to evaluate the culture of this team and what they're doing right now, what stands out to you the most?
To me, it all starts with Coach Allen. I mean, it starts there and trickles its way down. And as we were having those conversations about the new players that were coming in, he talked about each one of them being a fit. He would have recruited those guys out of high school as well. So it's about being able to find the guys that's going to fit your program the best, because you talk about bringing in new players into your locker room that may be older, that have done things a little bit differently than you have done things in the past, but they have to be willing to buy into the process that goes on right now at Indiana. And they found those guys. So I think that's a huge key for what they need to be able to do. But it's always tricky, right, when you're trying to integrate that many people into a new place, and along with, the freshmen that are coming in. But to me, Coach Allen does a great job of relationship building, and that's one of his strong suits.
And in saying that, he talked about some of the activities they did throughout the offseason, said the position group spent the most time they've ever spent together. They had the most team outings that they've had so far. I think that goes a really long way. But one of the things that he mentioned that was different from my experiences in college was this cross-positional work where you have a linebacker who's spending time with the offensive line. You have running backs that are spending time with the secondary. And usually you walk around the facility and you see the linebackers with the linebackers, the O-lines with the O-line. And I think really building that team mentality, especially for a program in Indiana that struggled last year, is going to go a long way, because everybody's going to know who they can depend on within that locker room.
Thanks a lot, Connor, for spending a little time with us, going through your first scrimmage. How do you think you did as from the quarterback position?
I thought I did very well. Obviously, first scrimmage, it's always good to have those mistakes, something to learn from, something for the coaches to teach us. And the offense, I thought we were moving. We got to be able to finish more in the red zone, but overall, I thought it was a good day.
What are some of the things that you believe you bring to the table as a quarterback?
Yeah, I think number one is just my experience playing 2 years in the SEC. I've seen pretty much every defense possible, and I think I'm ready for anything. And I think just my calmness and poise in the pocket, as a leader, I think that's important for the quarterback position. Guys up front, receivers, they know that they have a calm, confident leader back there.
As a quarterback, you find yourself in a quarterback battle. How do you guys stay calm and really stay competitive between the two or three of you in this particular case?
Yeah, I think it's just, going out every day with energy, and, all three of us, Jack, Dexter, Grant, everyone, we all have fun together in the meetings, out on the field, warm-ups, listening to music, joking around. So I think you got to have that aspect, and then when it's time to go, it's time to go. So
talk a little bit about the defense. You get head coaches calling the plays now. You get an opportunity to go against them sometimes. So tell us a little bit about how the defense has been able to progress.
I think they're unbelievable. I think those two corners we have, Jalen Williams and Tiawan Mullen, are unbelievable corners. Probably two of the best that I've played against. They're tough to go up against, but that's going to make it easier on us in the offense come game days.
Talk a little bit about the guys up front. Got to give you an opportunity to be able to run the ball and also throw it. How have they come along as well?
They're doing a great job. I've seen a lot of progress from spring to now, and I love those guys. They fight their butts off up front every day, giving a bunch of effort, protecting me, getting the run game going. They're awesome.
A couple of keys for this team having success this year?
Yeah, I think it starts with us on offense. Getting explosive plays, pushing tempo, scoring points, letting the defense do their thing, force turnovers, and cycle that through.
Well, good luck. Thanks for your time.
Yep.
After its season-end conference opener against Illinois, IU stays home for a pair of non-con matchups before its only non-conference road game, and it's a big one on the 24th of September against Cincinnati. The finish will be tough. IU's final 3 opponents combined to win 31 games a year ago. Back to Dave Revson now, who's with Jerry DiNardo.
Stop number 8 of our preseason tour, and we got a chance to see Indiana today. Not just go through a practice, coach, but go through a scrimmage. So this is the first scrimmage we have seen this year. We've seen several of them through the years. But give people a sense of how a scrimmage is different, because I think there are probably a lot of people out there who don't know how frequently do you scrimmage in camp. What are the differences between the first scrimmage and the third scrimmage? Take us through kind of that progression.
Yeah, drastically different for a younger player, right? Everyone thinks, I think it's just drastically different for the quarterback, but it's drastically different for everybody. So the way you teach the game is individual drills. So if you're an offensive lineman, you're with the offensive line doing drills. Then you do group work, offensive line versus defensive line. Maybe an inside drill, everybody but the wide receivers and the pass game. And then for the first time, maybe as a college player, you're involved in down and distance, you're involved in a competitive scrimmage. Things are coming at you a lot faster. People say you make the most progress from game 1 to game 2. You make more progress as an individual if you're a young player from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2, because for the first time as a college player, it's down in distance, it's different situations, it's working with the guy next to you, it's entirely different. For a quarterback, it's the first time probably that they've been live, although no one's letting the quarterback get sacked, but if the defender touches the quarterback, it's a dead play.
To be clear, we see team drills every day. So kind of what you talked about, right, the progression of we see individual, we see group work, and then we see team drills. What's different from the team drills we see in practice every day to what we saw today as a scrimmage?
Most of the time when you go team drill, it'll be 1st and 10 for a period. It'll be 3rd and short for a period. So the young player is tuned into the same situation over and over again in that team period. Now, sometimes you'll have a team period, especially nowadays, because no one really wants to scrimmage a lot. You'll have a team period where you'll play the down and distance, and that'll be everything but the tackle. Don't bring anybody to the ground. You can't go to a practice, well, maybe the great teams you can, but you can't go to most practices without hearing a coach say, stay on your feet. So you really should be able to play and practice the game without a pad from your waist down if you're playing the game correctly. So in team period, everybody's staying up. Obviously in scrimmage, you're bringing someone to the ground.
What are the particular challenges with what we saw with IU today, which is 2 new coordinators? So how does that play in a scrimmage situation, and what did you glean from watching the Hoosiers?
Yeah, let's start with Tom Allen, since basically he's going to be the defensive coordinator, but he also has the added responsibility, and the most important responsibility being the head coach. So he's going to be on the field calling signals. He's going to have help from upstairs. And when there's a game management situation going on and he may be correcting someone behind the bench about something that went on in the last defensive series, it's going to be hard for him to manage the game when his team is on offense. Walt Bell, first-time coordinator at IU, first fall scrimmage. They, as Coach Allen calls it, they went through some mechanics today that they hadn't gone through yet. In the spring, even though you have new coordinators, you usually don't go in the press box. You usually call a game from the field. But this is preseason game 1, I think Coach Allen calls it. So for the first time, it was organized exactly how it'll be organized against Illinois in the opener.
Before we wrap this up, biggest takeaway from watching the Hoosiers?
Quarterbacks, I think, solid position. It'll be interesting in the competition. I think, as in most teams in Indiana's situation, their skill position's okay. I think their secondary is certainly good. The difference between a successful season and an unsuccessful season, a lot of times in programs that are rebounding off a bad year, is line play. So I would say that the most progress has to be made from now until the opener is offensive line play and defensive line play.
And it is a big opener as they open up with a conference game against Illinois. We are off to Wisconsin next. We will see you from Madison.
I am pleased to be joined by Tony Alford, running backs coach here at Ohio State. And Coach, look back at last year. Things probably didn't go the way that you wanted them to. What did you take into the offseason? What did you give to the players to keep them motivated and focused?
Well, you know how it is around here. You played here. You're a former great player here. You know how it is, what our expectations are here. And you're expected to win every game. And you know what our goals are is to beat the team up north, which we didn't do, and win the Big Ten, which we didn't do, win the national championship. We didn't get any of those things done. So there's not a whole lot to say to them to motivate them. They know what the expectations are. We didn't meet them. And so we had a lot of work to do, and that's kind of been the mantra all year.
Now you look at your running back room, it's an embarrassment of riches. You've got guys top to bottom who can roll out there. As you grade this against other rooms that you've coached before, where does this one rank?
You know, and I say this, and this is no disrespect to the other rooms, but I think from top to bottom, this is probably the deepest I've been. Mm-hmm. You know, we had some star power to other rooms we've had, but I mean from top to bottom, I believe that this is probably the strongest room we've had since I've been here at least.
And so let's keep on that. You talk about top to bottom, you have depth, and this is a game right now where guys can just jump in the transfer portal, and you know that your guys can play elsewhere, and you've been able to keep them on the roster. How do you go about managing your room, making sure that you can keep guys interested, making sure that they're staying here?
I pray a lot. No, you know, honestly, Josh, you know how I am. I think that transparency goes a long way, and just calling it what it is and telling guys, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it. We don't always have to agree, so we can agree to disagree on some things. But as long as there's transparency in the room and everyone knows what the expectations are, is very clear about here are the things that you need to do to get better. Here are the things that you're not doing well. Here are the things you're doing great, and some things we need to enhance. So I just think that if you have some clear, transparent conversation in the room, that can eliminate a lot of the issues that may be coming. But it's an ever-changing world that we're in, and so that's something we're battling. But we'll just continue to go. But the one thing we do have, we have a great room of guys. They're best friends. They hang out outside of this building. They're always together, so they have a brotherhood and a bond that's real, and they just keep pushing to make each other better.
Now, keeping it kind of on the kids, I know a lot of people say that the young people have changed, and you've been in this game for quite a while. What are some ways that they've changed, and what are some ways that they're still similar?
Well, I think I'm not going to say they've changed. I think we've changed. You know, as the elder statesman, I think we've changed somewhat. You know, I know that social media, some guys are getting hyped up and whatever they do from all the social media things, but it's still about keeping kids grounded. I think everybody wants discipline. They want someone to be truth tellers in their lives, and I think sometimes that we've allowed, for fear of a guy's going to leave or fear of upsetting the apple cart, so we kind of softball some things to them sometimes. But I don't think kids have really changed. I really don't. I think that maybe we've changed and loosened up on some of the things, and you know, don't negotiate. This isn't a negotiation as far as what we want here in this building within our room. This isn't a negotiation as far as recruiting goes. If you come to Ohio State, here's what we're doing. We're not asking if you like it, but here's what we're doing. It doesn't mean it fits. You may not like it, but here's where we're going. And I think there's a blueprint's been made that if you do things a certain way, that the success is on the other side of that.
Now, looking just holistically, offensively, a lot of firepower, a ton of guys. I mean, you talk about the quarterback position with CJ. I know you like the wide receivers. We went over your room. When you flip on the tape after practice, what is the one thing that you want to see day to day from the offense?
Just consistency and guys playing hard and fundamental football. You know, how are you using your hands? Are you finishing plays? Is your footwork right? Are you in balance? As we call them power positions, and just execution. And really, if you're fundamentally sound, a lot of the execution is going to come with it. So that's really the things that we're really jumping on right now, is just the physicality of what we're doing and the fundamentals of what we're doing.
Now, you flip on, you look at the defense, and there's a new look over there with Coach Knowles, and I know that they throw some different things out there. What have been some of the bigger challenges and adjustments from the offensive standpoint?
Well, I think just finding that third safety, right, and where does he fit? And one play he's over here, the next play he's over there. Pre-snap he's here, then all of a sudden post-snap he's over here. So just locating guys and IDing it properly, and that can lead to a challenge, just locating where people are at. But they're really good athletic guys over there, and they got length, as we talked about. They're long, they're athletic, rangy guys that can all run. So, you know, excited about what they're doing.
I'll get you out of here on this one, but you talked a little bit earlier about the goals of the program for this season. Those are kind of long range.
Right.
How does that relate to what you do day to day in training camp?
Well, again, you're building your foundation right now, especially just the first real full week of camp. So you're really building your foundation, and you're building your identity. You know, everyone can say this is what we want, but now you got to go do it. And you have to build that foundation. You have to build that identity. I know a lot of people talk about, well, you know, they're a good-looking bunch. They're a talented bunch, but are you a tough bunch? Are you a disciplined bunch? Are you a fundamentally sound bunch? So that's kind of what we're building now. And I know we talk about the long-term goals, as you said, beat the team up north, win the Big Ten, win the national championship. But we also 3.5 weeks from now we play Notre Dame. So our focus is there. We have to build our identity, but let's not be mistaken. We have a big one coming here in the opener.
All right, Coach. Best of luck this year. It's always fun chopping it up with you.
My guy, appreciate you, Josh.
Joined by Aaron Cruickshank. How are you? How's the body feeling?
Feeling great now. It's just great to come out here. Nice summer weather. Enjoying it.
Tell me how the offense has been progressing thus far.
Oh, it's been coming along pretty well so far. Our job is just locking in and focusing on our jobs and then just coming closer together as a team. So that's really what it is.
What are some of the things you need this offense to be able to do for you guys to have the type of success you want to have?
Like I said, just coming closer together with this camp, just trust and believing in one another, and then the sky's the limit for us.
A little bit of a quarterback battle going on.
Oh, yeah.
Assess that. Don't tell me who you think's in first place, who's winning this thing. Just assess both players.
Right now, I feel like it's pretty close because we got a young guy that's coming in trying to prove what his worth is, and we got an old veteran that knows his job, knows it well, and he's also a coach at the end of the day too. So it's pretty close. I don't know who really winning, so I really think it's pretty close.
A veteran in the wide receiver room, also the kick returner. How's your leadership style developed since you got into college?
I'll say I've seen a lot. I've grown a lot, so now it's my turn to just give back and show all the younger guys so when they get in my position, they could just take it off and just take it to the next level.
When you look at this defense, what do you see as the strength, or what gives you guys the most problems?
I say our defensive line is really, really, really good. They have depth, and I say the corners and safeties, they just know how to just stay close to guys and just break up the passes, so I'll say that.
How much do you enjoy the special teams game?
Oh, all the time. I love it. That's my thing. I just get to interact with the fans. Just everybody. It's just fun to be out there.
Tell me a little bit about the fans. I know you got excited when I asked you about them.
Oh yeah, I love them. Like it's another way of just showing me that I'm home. You feel what I'm saying? I'm in Jersey. Jersey's a big state. There's only football here. The only college in here. So they're gonna show us some love, and I respect it.
Keys to success for the team this year.
I say coming closer, belief, and just taking everything and just going all out, 100%.
I really appreciate you taking time out to spend with us. Stay successful and stay healthy.
I appreciate you.
All right. Jack, so an opportunity to go through your first scrimmage. How do you think you performed, and how did the team perform as well?
I think we did a good job today as a team, taking the next step. It's super important for us to just keep on getting better every single practice, and I think we did that.
What are some of the things that you're trying to work on to make sure that you're getting to the best point you can to be able to have an opportunity to lead the team?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think really it's my footwork, decision-making, and, just getting with Coach Bell. Really for all that stuff has helped so much in spring and throughout summer.
How's the offense changed a little bit for you since last year coming into this one?
Don't want to give too many secrets away, for the first game, but different progressions, different reads, different tempo, all that stuff.
From a leadership standpoint, how have you changed and developed?
Yeah, so I kind of older guy now. I'm getting older.
You are.
Older guys on the team for sure. So, taking on that leadership role as an older guy and pushing people and holding each other accountable. Super important, and I think I took on that role.
When you're in the middle of a quarterback battle,
yeah,
how do you stay focused and not get caught up in it?
Really, what I do is just focus on myself, and if I compete with myself, focus on myself, be the best version of me, everything's going to be good, and I'm a roll.
A couple of keys to this team being able to have success this year.
I think it's just execution is a huge one. We said it all last year. I think the mindset in the red zone, being able to score and doing those things and, just staying together as a team through any type of adversity is huge.
Well, thanks a lot. Appreciate your time and good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Coach, you take over the offense. Give our viewers a feel for your offensive philosophy.
I think first and foremost, the biggest thing is you've got to master a core set of runs, and I think that goes all the way back to the spring, identifying your personnel, identifying where you can create angles and wins in a run game. So number one, mastering a core set of runs. I think number two is just identification of your quarterback skills and making sure that you're always trying to keep him in a position to be successful. And then from there, after you master your core set of runs and kind of identify your quarterback skills, I think it's who are your winners on the perimeter, whether that be a tight end, whether that be an inside receiver, an outside receiver, and really trying to do everything that you can within system to make sure that you're finding the best way that you possibly can to make those three avenues of the offense run well.
You mentioned quarterback several times. You're in a quarterback competition. So how do you win the quarterback position if you're playing quarterback for Indiana? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I think for me, number one, it's a little bit of a stockbroker mentality. You know, I don't know much about finances, you know, and so I have to have a guy. And the first thing that you got to know when you have a guy is that you're actually, the money's still going to be there, that you can trust him, you know. And then once they prove that they're trustworthy with the football, they can take care of the ball, they can efficiently manage the line of scrimmage, they're good communicators. Once they can start to minimize error, that's when you can really start to focus on maximizing skills and really kind of building the system to them.
So you scrimmaged today. So how much of the evaluation of your starting quarterback will come from the scrimmage as opposed to all the other practices and all the other drills?
I mean, it's a big part of the evaluation, but Coach Allen's done a wonderful job, and I think being very mindful of the position that we're in, of every day there being 12, 15, 20 minutes of move the ball, coaches on the sidelines. You're calling things that not only are your ABCs or your fundamentals of your offense from an installation standpoint, but it's also the install of the day. And so, you know, who can drive their eyes where they're supposed to go and react accordingly, you know, who can connect dots, who can manage the system. But we've been doing it almost every day since about practice 3 or 4, giving those guys a chance every day to play in game-like situations.
Give us a sense of your depth, both good and maybe some areas where you're concerned about the depth and have to develop it in camp.
Yeah, no, you know, and when we got here in the spring, we've added a couple pieces to that receiver room, one being internally, you know, with Donovan McCulley moving from quarterback to receiver. I think he's going to be a phenomenal player someday. You know, we added Cam Camper at midterm. We added Emory Simmons at midterm from North Carolina. We added Anderson Kobe from Tennessee at midterm. You know, and so that room has kind of changed very quickly to go along with some good players, Javon Swinton, Malachi Holt-Bennett, some younger players from a year ago that didn't get to play a lot. So the room's very raw, very young, but we feel physically that we're better than we were in the spring.
How about some leaders on the team?
You know, Jack Tuttle, he's a guy that has, even when, now he's had to play a lot of football because of injuries, right. So he has played, he has experience, he has the trust of his teammates, and he's a wonderful kid and an unbelievable worker. So I would say Jack, I would say Sean Shivers, a midterm enrollee, has brought a lot of toughness and fire to our offense, especially the skill positions. A.J. Barner is another great example. You know, Mike Kadick, you know, a guy that's been a starter here at left guard, Matt Bedford, our right tackle, and then in a very quiet way, Luke Haggard, our left tackle. But we've got good leaders, and I think a large part of that being our head coach and how he cultivates that, you know, and truly involves those guys in decision making. So I feel pretty good about our leadership.
Good to have you back in the Big Ten. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely glad to be here, man. Thank you.
Thanks.
Tiawan, I got to spend some time with you last year talking about what the season outlook was going to be, and you came up with the foot injury. You went through the recovery process, but just mentally for you, what was it like getting back onto the football field and getting back up to full speed?
You know, it was a crazy transition. You know, my first injury, you know, that was sitting me out for like half of the season, the whole season. You know, and you know we got a wonderful training staff. You know, they put S and Z together, the dots together, if I can get my foot back right, and they did just that.
Now, we just watched practice, big scrimmage day. I know Coach wanted to be competitive. They wanted a high pace. How do you evaluate the way that the defense is coming along right now?
Well, we're moving fast and efficient. You know, we're swarming to the ball. You know, everybody playing as one. You know, we're still sharpening our acts, but it looked good.
Where do you think you've grown the most from last year to this year, just in terms of full defensive concepts and you yourself as a player?
Well, I feel like just me just being more vocal, you know, encouraging guys more, you know, just stepping up to the plate. You know, just being more vocal.
Now, you get to watch this quarterback battle every day as you go out against those guys. What do they bring to the table?
Man, those guys bring great IQ, you know, great strength, passing the ball. You know, they both can run, you know, so both of the guys are unique in their own ways.
Now, you look at the 2020 season, Indiana was phenomenal. Last year didn't go the way you wanted it to. What do you learn from a situation like that from a team perspective?
You know, you just learn that once you get success, you know, you have to keep grinding. You know, you're not tied to anything. You know, and once you earn the success, you know, you just got to keep moving forward and don't look ahead.
Now, as you look at the defense right now, they say that pass rush and cover work together. I know there were some explosive guys down there on the edges. What kind of confidence do you gain when you watch them go out there and get wins?
It's a lot of confidence, you know, because, you know, I know the defense, we're going to do our part. You know, just seeing the offense being explosive, you know, with a nice running back backfield, you know, O-line. So it's nice.
Now I'll get you out of here on this question. How are you going to define success as a team for Indiana this year?
You know, success for a team for Indiana this year is just, you know, winning day by day, you know, game by game, you know, quarter by quarter. You know, we're going to take one step at a time. We'll keep building. You know, we're just going to improve it on September 2nd.
All right. Appreciate your time and good luck this year.
Thank you for having me.